Welcome to RAS Retro Comics. In this episode, I go over some purchases I made recently at my local comic book store. What did I find? Stay tuned to find out. So I ventured out to one of my local comic book stores in Toronto, which I go to occasionally, to see what they had in stock, and to my luck, I found a lot of books that I liked at a good price that I was willing to pay, and now I'm going to show you what I got. The first one is actually a Golden Age comic book, Action number 99. Now typically, I don't come across that many Golden Age comic books, especially at a price that I find that I can afford or that are reasonable, and this one fit the bill. Now, it looks better at first glance, but it's actually in a lot rougher shape than it presents. But that I'm totally okay with that because lower condition books are usually a lot more affordable and a lot more reasonably priced. This is Action number 99, and what's notable about this issue is that this is the first issue where they went with the mini logo in the trade dress. And I've seen these books before, and I always thought it was kind of weird how the logo was always kind of on a slight bit of a slant. And I always wondered why that was the case. To what effect, I'm not really sure, but it's a pretty cool issue. I love old comic books. This one, the reason why it's in a lower grade is it's pretty grimy, pretty dirty. But I love like the old smell of old pages and anything that I think from the 40s, especially the major like superhero titles that you can pick up. If I find a good deal, I'll pick that up. The next two books are Batman books. And the first one is Batman 244, which has a classic Neil Adams cover. It's a relatively early appearance of Ra's al Ghul. And I always found this cover to be... I've owned this book before, but I got rid of it at some point. But if you look at the cover and you notice Ra's al Ghul, he is holding Batman's costume. And then if you look at Batman, well, Batman's still wearing half of his costume, so I guess, he had long underwear that matches his costume. But one of the best Neil Adams Batman covers from that time, in my opinion. It's a little rough condition, and like there's been some kind of like weird repair stuff done over here, and as a result of that, the price was good. So I'm happy to have this back into my collection again. This is Batman number 205, and I've always found covers that played around with the trade dress to be kind of interesting, and this one is a good one. It's the cover is done by Irv Novick, and the sunglasses reflection kind of motif has been used a lot in comic books before as well. Although, again, like the previous Batman, if you take a good look at the cover, you'll notice there's some kind of oddities. Here you have the guy shooting both Batman and Robin, and I don't know if this is a double-barreled rifle or whatever, but typically they only fire one shot at a time, but if you look in the reflection, well, there are two bullets, so I don't know. Like, can hit at the same time? Who knows? But cool cover. Like, anytime that I can find Batman that are, again, like, affordable, reasonable, I'll pick them up. But there you go, Batman number 205. So as I mentioned, anytime I can find like Golden Age or old comic books that are cheap, I'll pick them up. This is a Wings comic from 1943, and it's number 29. They've had this at the store for a while, and one thing that I do like about this store, and I'll give you some more details about the store afterwards, is that if they've had something for a while and it doesn't sell, then they'll mark down the prices. This is a used bookstore more so than a comic book store, but they have a pretty good selection of back issues of comic books. And Wings Comics, it's a fiction house series that also published a lot of other popular titles like Planet, Jumbo, Jungle, Fight Comics, and whatnot. But the earlier issues of Wings Comics are just not very popular or sought after. It's the later issues of Wings that actually have some amazing, outstanding covers that are very popular with collectors. But these earlier issues, even though they're old and they're kind of cool, they just don't have, well, they just don't sell very well at whatever prices. So this was marked down, quite a bit. It's got a couple loose, like centerfold pages as well too, and it's got a little piece of missing from the corner there. So, but it was really cheap. And so anytime I'm able to pick up old, interesting comic books like this, I will. And here you go. Wings number 29. There's also another issue of Wings comics there that was pretty cheap. And this issue number 47, dated 1946. What I didn't mention with the previous Wings comics is that the original collector would write little notes. And I really like this kind of stuff when I find them with books. This is post-World War II. Often, like with Fiction House magazines or Fiction House comic books, the interior artwork is actually really quite good. And even with some of the, later issues of Wings comic books, they had a lot of notable artists who did the artwork in the inside, including an artist like Matt Baker. The covers may not always be striking for some of these earlier issues, but the later issues, the covers are, as well as the interior artwork. So there you go. Now this next book is probably the most interesting book that I picked up of the lot. And it is now actually the oldest comic book that I own in my collection. This is USA is Ready, published in 1941. And what's interesting about this is kind of like what you would call like a war propaganda book. Inside is not so much of a comic book itself, but it kind of details how the USA is ready for the World War that was going on at that time, even though they had not formally entered the war at that time, but they're ready, and if push comes to shove, we'll be there. I'm probably going to do like a full episode on this particular issue because there is a lot more to this that's historically relevant that I find is really interesting, including a part of when they talk about the Pacific Fleet. So a very cool historic comic book, 1941, published by Dell, and that's USA is Ready. The last thing I picked up, and I picked up a few of these, and these are comic book marketplace magazines. Now, this was kind of like a sister title published by the same people who published the Overstreet Price Guide, except this kind of like fanzine, I guess fanzine might be like an appropriate term, covers a lot more about older comic books. Now, I always knew about this series when it came out in, I think, late, this is number 96, so it came out in the 90s, but a lot of places didn't carry this, and as well, like, back then, the cover price of these was really expensive. So, like, the Canadian cover price on this is $9, and this is, like, over 20 years old. So, I never picked them up, but the store had a few of these, and they had them priced at below cover price, which is great. And these are an amazing resource on older comic books. There's a lot of great articles that touch mostly on Golden Age, but also Silver Age and sometimes Bronze Age. But in this particular issue is a spotlight on Milton Caniff, who was considered like one of the like masters of that time. I believe not only did he do like Steve Canyon, but also Terry and the Pirates. I may be mistaken there. But there's the three big artists. There's Milton Caniff. There is Alex Raymond. And there is Hal Foster. Hal Foster did Prince Valiant. Alex Raymond did Flash Gordon. Milton Caniff, Steve Canyon. But if you do come across these, these are just great because they delve into a lot of history of older comic books. And certainly the price was right, $5. I'm not going to complain. So I was happy to pick up a number of these. So there you go. Some pretty cool comic books that I picked up. The store that I picked these up at is called BMV Books. They have 3 locations in Toronto, and all you need to do is look up BM as in Mary, V Books in Google to find out the locations. The location up north Doesn't have very much in terms of comic books. Sometimes they have some interesting things, but the two bigger locations, one downtown and one kind of midtown, often have like pretty good books. It can be really hit and miss. They do have an Instagram account that they post some of the recent stuff, but often because they price their stuff so well, like they price their books to get out the door, you have to get lucky. You got to be there at the right time to pick up the stuff that they post on Instagram. But they always have quality stuff. Their trade paperback selection is incredibly good and very well priced. And I always manage to find something that I like when I'm there. So if you have a chance, if you're in Toronto, I highly recommend going to BMV Books because the selection of comic book back issues and trade paperbacks are superb, and you can't really go wrong. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.